with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce the next panel discussion. I do believe that we have them on, we have the panelists on stage. I will go ahead and welcome Ms. Melissa Harvey, all the way from South Africa. She will be moderating this session, and she will be able to take it from here. So again, welcome, Melissa. Thank you for joining us here at the Africa Trade Conference, and carry on. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anne. Good day to all our delegates. I'm Melissa Harvey, as the COO of the Village Foundation in South Africa. Really, we are a foundation that empowers entrepreneurs and have been doing that for 14 years. So you can imagine as to why I'm here, because we all want to see Africa propel. We're excited. And with that being said, I'll be moderating this really interesting session, Intra-Africa Trade as a theme, strategies for increased regional trade through opportunities found in regional economic communities. So I'd like to also just take a moment to acknowledge our organizers. I think it's very important. Our Regal Africa Business Institute, Regal Africa International Trade, Elite Global Branding, as well as EBS Events. Ms. Anne Geiter, a special thank you to you for all that you do, playing an important role in organizing this event. Maybe one of many more. We're excited for that. The information shared on this platform is incredibly vital in really getting entrepreneurs to understand the ins and the outs of trade and how to actively get involved. So many entrepreneurs are trade ready. However, it is a very daunting process to start accessing and breaking into new markets. So we thank you for that. And your passion for Africa is contagious. And we're excited to see how after this, we can have some action items that can really we can all come together and see how we can be progressive in really sharing this. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to take a moment to acknowledge my panelists joining me today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. Every bit of information that can assist the next entrepreneur is vital. And when it comes from such important individuals, it goes without saying. So today our panelists are Mr. John Bosco Kalisa, CEO of East Africa Business Council. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. John. Mr. Aminou Akadiri Bakin, CEO of Federation of West Africa Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and Mr. Teddy Soobramanien, CEO of COMESA Business Council. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to introduce our panelists. I think it's always very important to have a clear understanding of where the message is coming from in terms of their experience and in terms of the positions that they hold. So I'm first going to introduce Mr. John Bosco Kalisa, EABC Executive Director and CEO. Mr. Kalisa is an economist by profession, specialized in econometrics, trade policy, investment promotion, and private sector development and taxation related issues. He holds a master's degree in commerce with economics from the University of Pretoria, South Africa, and a bachelor's degree in economics from National University of Rwanda. He has an in-depth understanding of the regional economic communities and has participated fully in negotiations of international, continental, and regional agreements. Mr. John Bosco Kalisa has experience in private sector development and competitiveness, having previously served as the country director of South Sudan Trademark East Africa, TMEA. He has also worked for the Rwanda Private Sector Federation and Rwanda Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. He has global connections with leading international development partners such as USAID, Korea International Cooperation Agency, Japan International Cooperation Agency, and Africa Development Bank and the World Bank. As the EABC CEO and Executive Director, Mr. Kalisa steers the high-level policy advocacy, so incredibly important, at the EAC head of state and ministerial level to push forward the EABC's vision and mission of a borderless East Africa for increased business and development. Just incredible. We welcome you. Thank you so much, Mr. John. I'm now going to introduce Mr. Aminou Akadiri Bakin in his capacity as CEO of the Federation of West Africa Chambers of Commerce and Industry and the Executive Director of the African Business Council. Ambassador Aminou Akadiri is an expert in private sector development and promotion with more than 20 years experience in regional and continental economic integration, especially in the creation of community enterprise and cross-border trade and investment. In the past, he has served as the consultant and expert of ECOWAS Commission for drafting ECOWAS policies, protocols on agriculture, industry, investment and competition, payment systems and guarantee mechanisms, as well as quality systems. He also holds a regional focal point organizations of Pacific Caribbean States, OACPS, for West Africa. He's also the vice president of the Francophone South and Tripartite Cooperation Network, as well as vice president of the OACPS Business Forum. Thank you, and we welcome you for joining us. And last but not least, Mr. Teddy Soobramanien, Chief Executive Officer of COMESA Business Council, with over 25 years of international experience in trade negotiations, policy implementation, business development, and organizational management. Mr. Teddy brings a unique set of skills, of perspectives, and leadership qualities to steer CBC into the future. Mr. Teddy has held several leading positions in the World Trade Organization, the United Nations, the International Trade Center, the Commonwealth, the UK government, the African, Caribbean, and Pacific states, European Union, Trade-Com facility in private sector, and the Mauritius mission to the UN in Geneva. He has steered to success many of the programs he has been responsible for, including the Aid for Trade Hub and Spokes program. Mr. Teddy is widely published on issues relating to small economies, the ACP, developing countries, on international trade issues that are interests to Africa. He has also implemented several private sector development projects for the Trade-Com facility. He holds a master's degree in law from Robert Gordon University, United Kingdom, as well as a BSc honors degree in economics from the University of Mauritius, a diploma in trade policy from the WTO, and is currently pursuing a doctorate in international trade law at the University of Reading, UK. Thank you so much. Just incredible panelists today. A very warm welcome to you all again. If you would like to take a moment to introduce yourselves further, any opening comments, Mr. John Bosco Kalisa?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Melissa, and good afternoon or good morning, depending where you are. Allow me, first of all, to congratulate and commend Anne Wambui and the team for organizing this excellent conference on trade, on CFTA. Also allow me to congratulate my brother, the new CEO for COMESA Business Council. I look forward to interact and engage further. I want to again thank you, Melissa. Indeed, you've ably articulated my brief biography, and I want to thank you. Again, as you rightly put it, this is an important session because we are looking at the regional economic communities and their role in the continental free trade area. So it is an excellent session, and I look forward to share my insight and views, as you already shared, mentioned. Of course, I'm a trade economist with diverse experience on trade matters and private sector driven integration. As you are aware, EAC principles are very clear. The treaty is very clear. People-centered, market-driven integration. So private sector plays a cardinal role. And I want to say whatever we discuss, the prosperity for this continent emanates largely from engagement of the private sector, giving the private sector the right place in the integration agenda. The role of government must be clear. Again, the role of government is to create a conducive environment for the private sector to survive and thrive. And from where I sit at ESC, we've demonstrated that we can only absorb external shocks when the private sector is taking the leading role in integration agenda. So let me stop there. I'll come again during my session. Otherwise, I appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalisa. I'll also just open for Mr. Teddy Soobramanien, if you'd like to come in with an opening comment.
Thank you, Melissa. I won't repeat what you said. I think you've introduced me wonderfully well, so I won't repeat that. But suffice for me to also join my fellow panelists in thanking the organizers for this very laudable initiative for Africa. It's very much appreciated. I also want to take this opportunity to reiterate to my colleague John, yes, looking forward to working closely with you. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Teddy, much appreciated. And last but not least, Mr. Aminou Akadiri Bakin, if you'd like to open with any comments.
Thank you very much, Melissa. It's a pleasure for me to be here. You make a very wonderful presentation on me. Even you go beyond. Thank you very much for that one. And let me appreciate Anne Wambai Gaita and Ngozi Oyewole, who introduced me to this platform. I didn't believe that I can come and have this opportunity to share, to discuss with you. Let me take also this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Teddy Soobramanien for your election as new president of COMESA Business Council. COMESA Business Council is a key participant in Africa Union Business Council, led by Dr. Amani Ashfo, and that will be a pleasure for us to work with you. Also with my brother, John Bosco Kalisa. As the head of state said, private sector have to come as one in the region if we need to achieve the objective of boosted intra-African trade. And having a platform like this, platform for discussion, dialogue, exchange is very, very key for us to know who we are, what we can do together, and how we can do business together. We at FEWASI in West Africa, what we do is we make business happen to everybody. Thank you very much. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aminou. And really, these sessions are exactly as you've put it, and so well articulated there to say, these sessions are not just really an information session, it's a dialogue. It's to see how we can take all of the information that we have, all of the knowledge, all of the skills, the expertise, and actually drive this conversation further after this conference. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Aminou. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. John Bosco Kalisa. The East Africa's Business Council's vision and mission is a borderless East Africa. We want to take that borderless East Africa and we actually want to make it a borderless Africa eventually. And really that'll increase business and investments in this region, really there with that borderless East Africa. Can you share what work you are doing to ensure that this is a reality, Mr. John?
Yeah, thank you very much, Melissa. Again, I appreciate, and that's a good question. Indeed, our vision is the borderless East Africa for business and investment, because we believe that through business and investment, we are able to create prosperity for East Africans. And I'm happy that we are even moving further to the continent. Again, we are extending this vision of the private sector driven growth to the continent. Mm-hmm. So what we have done, again, let me just give a quick background. The new East Africa, the revised East African community, its treaty, the treaty establishing the East African community is very clear. It has two principles. One, people-centered integration, meaning that integration need to respond to the aspiration of the people in the community. Two, market-led integration or private sector-led integration, meaning that the wealth creation, as my sister Amboy mentioned, wealth creation, government does not create wealth. Wealth creation emanates from the private sector. And what private sector needs is a conducive business environment to ensure that there are no barriers to trade, no barriers to do investment. So ESC, I'm happy to mention or state here that ESC is the most performing legs among the legs in terms of the trade. Look at the recent, I want to share with you that look at the recent report by African Development Bank, both report 2021, 2022. 2021, among legs, among African continents, among the legs, The only leg that did not slide into recession was East Africa. And there were three important instruments. What did East Africa, what was that magic bullet did the East Africa do to weather the storm of COVID and other associated shocks? Of course, it was a heresy shock, but it had also economic shock because it impacted our lives and livelihood. So there were three important fundamentals that EAC did so that it was not able to slide into recession. One is our close ties, embracing trade. Our head of state committed that whatever happening, allow trade to continue to flow. So the trade was not hindered during COVID. Protocols were observed, COVID-related protocol observed, but essential goods, including foodstuff, could move across borders. That is what was two. Second one was the investment in productive infrastructure. The region has invested heavily in productive infrastructure. Ports, we have two ports here, Port of Mombasa, Port of Dar es Salaam. They have embraced modernization. They have reformed their business. They operate under a business-friendly environment. They operate as private ports. That was very clear. Border posts, we tried to ease procedures at the borders. You know, the borders, all the borders agents had to come together to facilitate trade. The third component was the, of course, investment in a diversified agriculture. It was also one of our savior. Even now, during the Russia-Ukraine war, it is still one of our shock absorbers in terms of weathering the storm from external shocks. So those were very fundamental instruments. And that's what EAC we are doing. That's what EABC we are doing to ensure that private sector continues to thrive, not to survive, but to thrive. It can only thrive through public-private partnership. So we've enhanced, EABC has built a very strong public-private partnership. We work closely with the EAC Secretariat. We have established what we call technical working group, where we meet monthly to iron out issues related to trade, investment, customs, all issues that would impede trade flows. So that is the magic bullet, I would say, what we have done. And our role, as it is very clear, is to ensure that there is a conducive business environment for the private sector to create the wealth, to create prosperity. Prosperity is generated through trade. So as we move towards the continental free trade area, this is the same message. Private sector creates wealth. Private sector creates prosperity. The role of government is just to create a conducive environment for private sector to thrive and grow and generate jobs for the young population of our continent. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. John. Incredible. I love how you've put it forward there to say, in terms of the private sector, it's imperative in terms of they're really activating and really getting in there to assist where they can in terms of that job creation. We know that there are over 200 million youth on the continent that are unemployed. We know at this point in time, entrepreneurship really is the answer to that, as much as the private sector and public sector play an integral role in developing jobs for the youth. But it's incredible that as East Africa's Business Council, you came forward during a tough time. You really worked diligently to get through the COVID, that period that was so heart-wrenching for many economies. So well done to you. Well done for leading that. It's incredible. Thank you. Mr. Teddy, if I can hand over to you. As you lead COMESA Business Council, given your regional and international experience, please would you kindly share with us as to which are the key factors that businesses must have in place to access the common market?
Thank you, Melissa. That's a very relevant question, I think, for the theme of this conference. Some of the points that I had in mind actually has been ably taken up by John Bosco already. So I might be repeating a bit what he has said, but probably re-emphasize it a bit from what CBC we are doing. First of all, I think, Melissa, it is very important that we understand how trading activities actually take place, and also how we translate what is in trade and other economic agreements into tangible economic benefits for the businesses in our region. As John has ably put forward, I think they create the environment, but then it is for our businesses to take advantage of the trading agreements. So that's I think in terms of background setting that we have to be fully aware of. Now, first and foremost, what are the factors? And I think our supply response capacity is important. Are we producing what we need to trade? Do we have the capacity to produce and take advantage of the opportunities created by the common market? In the previous session, I saw the two ladies presented some of the products they are producing and so on. So these are examples. So yes, we are producing in Africa. We are producing products that we can export. So yes, we are there. But then the other key question is, can we move these products across borders at a minimum cost? And here comes, and I think John touched a bit on that, the whole issue of trade facilitation. What about the cost of transportation? What about border controls? What about our road network and infrastructure? Many of our African countries are landlocked, for example. They need to move products across countries, Zambia being one example. So the advantage being created by common market or a customs union can easily be eroded by exorbitant trading costs by these other barriers. So I think that's important to understand. And I think we are working in a direction trying to bring down these costs. Some other elements, some other factors which are important is trade finance. We cannot underestimate this aspect, is the access to trade finance, especially for SMEs and MSMEs. Do they have access to trade finance to be able to trade across borders? They may find it difficult to export if they cannot have access to this financing mechanism, for example, or simply ensure that payment is effected in the most efficient and secure way. So do we have this financial mechanism in place? Is another important factor. Product differentiation, how to create that brand name which consumers can trust and continue buying products from the region. And of course, have the global context been taken into account as well. So this is another important factor. The distribution channels, are these in place? And one aspect which to my mind is very important, as you mentioned in the introduction, I worked for the Commonwealth for some time, and we did some work also on what can create the Commonwealth advantage. Why do, for example, Commonwealth countries trade among themselves? We came up to the conclusion that there might be a Commonwealth advantage. For example, if we have a good trade governance, do we have the same legal system? For example, in case of dispute in trade in our trading activities, do we have that legal system so that we can resolve that? So the trade governance, and I think John touched on that a bit when he talked about trading environment. And I think I use a different connotation, which I call the trade governance. Do we have this in place so that our traders, our businesses can do business, in a very secure and predictable way? The other aspect, Melissa and colleagues, which I think is important, and I'm going a little bit more forward-looking here, and I think as Africa, we should not always be followers. We can set the pace sometimes in certain areas. And here I'm going probably to be quite bold in my session. I believe in new technologies. I believe in e-commerce. I believe in digital economy as drivers of economic development and business development. So embracing new technologies in the region to facilitate trade, I think, is a key factor as well. So we should not remain behind, because people are using mobile phone, they are using new technologies. We are very well connected. I was very surprised when I came to Lusaka very recently. The connection here is absolutely marvelous. You know, it's comparable to Europe. It may be surprising some people. Yes, it is. So we can do business, we can embrace new technologies. And I think that's an important factor we should neglect. And of course, competition policies and others are very important. But Melissa, as I said, some of these points were picked up by John as well. So I won't repeat some of the points he so ably put forward. So I'll leave it at that for now. But these are some of my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Mr. Teddy. One of the other factors that we've come across with some of our entrepreneurs, and I'd like to raise it here just for food for thought, is your standard bearer. So you find that many entrepreneurs are struggling a little with regards to the standardization of various products. And we found there was an incredible lady who had an amazing product that could really contribute so much to the well-being of the youth, especially female youth. And unfortunately, you know, it was recognized here in South Africa with, you know, all of our various departments. It was clinically tested, etc. And she just can't seem to ship it across borders because of those standards. So that is something else, something further we need to think on in terms of those key factors. Thank you so much, Mr. Teddy. Mr. Aminou, thank you so much again for joining us. In terms of my question for you is, how is the Federation of West Africa Chambers of Commerce and Industry ensuring that there is a private sector development and that more trade is happening in West African countries and investments in the region? Can you share what you're doing in terms of that in making it a reality?
Thank you very much, Melissa. For me, for not repeating what John and President Teddy said, we as a business support organization, our role is to make sure that we have enabling and friendly business environment. That is very key to make a business happen and to seize all the opportunity. So that is what we do. But to have that one, we need a very good platform for private sector. We in West Africa, the Federation of West African Chamber of Commerce was created since 1970 as the fulcrum for trade and investment in West Africa. And we were the pioneer of organized private sector in West Africa, even before the creation of ECOWAS. I make this linkage because we are here in ECOWAS. I'm addressing you here from ECOWAS Commission in Abuja. We are representing private sector inside the ECOWAS. Why we are here is that we serve as platform for private sector to bring our position and view on in all the policy and instrument was putting in place for trade and investment. So having a very good business development is to have a private sector actor that's come with the same view. We want to do business. How are we going to do business? We need a very clear and good legal framework. What type of legal framework that it's put in place? How are we bringing our position in this platform? So the treaty at ECOWAS level enable private sector to initiate, formulate, and even participate in the implementation for ECOWAS policy. We provide our position to ECOWAS to say, we as private sector, this is what we want. If I take the example for the founding father of the Federation, when the Federation was set up, I say we need to be have our entry to the head of state summits so that we can bring our position. So we got the observer status to ECOWAS statutory meeting. Through that statutory meeting, we are able to address the key issue. We discover in the year 70 that we needed to trade, but to trade we need financial instruments. That will bring us to create a company, EcoBank. I will come on it later to fully explain to it, to make a business happen in the West Africa. So our role is that we play an important role in promoting intra-regional partnership through harmonization of private sector activity, the promotion of our joint venture, like I explained to EcoBank creation in our sector. We promote a good governance and we build the capacity of our members. But what we believe is that the entry into force of the CFTA is an opportunity for private sector where we can come jointly and work forward to have active engagement to support our members. So if we need to have a very good private sector actors working in having a market, open market to our members, we need to make sure that any challenge our business people are having on the road to cross border, to trade with the other people in another country, we make sure that we have this facility. So that is what we are doing here at PWASI, that we are supporting the business, and having a CFTA is also a good platform for us to engage with our members in other countries like in East Africa or in South Africa to do business.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aminou. I love that you mentioned the word partnerships. I think it's integral that we start to think that way. We start to think in the form of collaboration as well within the private sector. So when we can start speaking to each other, ultimately we're all aiming for the same goal, and working together through those partnerships will then eventually lead to achieving that goal. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Mr. Teddy, regional trade is important for all businesses that are looking to scale up and become sustainable. Can you share with us how CBC helps its members, or rather your members, to access regional and global markets?
Sorry, Mr. Teddy, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I was saying once again, very relevant question to the conference. And CBC, we are active on several fronts. So the time will not allow me to list all the activities in which we are involved in. But let me maybe pick 2 or 3 of the activities in which we are helping our businesses move to the region, move their products across the region. As I mentioned in my previous answer, I think one key aspect is this whole issue of finance, payments. So CBC is implementing the COMESA Digital Financial Inclusion for SMEs program. The goal of this program is to support an integrated digital financial services infrastructure that is low cost, interoperable, and fraud resistant, that serves MSMEs, enterprises, and their customers. At the moment, we have this program running for 8 pilot countries. We have Egypt, Ethiopia, Zambia, Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, Malawi, and Mauritius. So these are the 8 pilot projects in this phase that we are undertaking this digital financial inclusion project. So that's one example. Yeah, the other example, if you allow me to mention, is the strengthening of the local sourcing. This involves key training programs and factory flow intervention, which is being carried out to strengthen local sourcing business compliance. And here we are covering 10 countries: Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Zambia, Malawi, Ethiopia, Madagascar, Tanzania, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. So about 800 SMEs have been trained on health standards requirement. This ties in nicely to your comment from the earlier session about standards and so on. Yeah? So we are involved in that area as well. Another factor probably, which I didn't, important factor that probably I didn't lay too much emphasis in my first answer, my first response to your first question, was about trade information. And here also we are addressing that. CBC is addressing market information gaps. So CBC offers tailor-made training to MSMEs and also provide market information and opportunities within the region through buyer missions, trade fairs, buyer select conferences. We have also been undertaking quite a number of capacity building activities. Just to give you some figures, about 200 SMEs have been trained on how to evaluate and export their products to the region. 200 SMEs in the COMESA region. So Melissa, this is a bit of a snapshot picture about what CBC we are doing here for our members and the business community in the region. But I'm more than happy, to talk a bit more. If people try to reach out to CBC, we'll be more than happy to share some of the numerous activities we're undertaking for the business community in the region.
Thank you so much, Mr. Teddy. That's incredible. They are most proactive. It's wonderful to hear. It's important to know that you are running those pilot studies. It's important to know that there is training on offering. And I would like to put forward perhaps to Ms. Anne, if we can maybe look at centralizing all that information as well, so that further people can really interact and get involved in that. Thank you so much, Mr. Teddy. That's wonderful. Mr. Aminou, you have experienced working at the ECOWAS Commission and drafting ECOWAS policies and protocols in various industries. Can you share the best practices that the West African nations are doing to increase the opportunities in regional trade? Over to you, Mr. Aminou.
Thank you once again, Melissa. Yes, so what we do in West Africa for this kind of opportunities that ECOWAS region is not the region that's how to explain who we are in ECOWAS, or what West Africa region is. But so what I can pull out is that if ECOWAS region have been to have a concrete region results in the context for deepening regional economic integration, because private sector here are very, very vibrant. Private sector are very vibrant, and because we also have one key protocol since year 70s, is the protocol on the free movement of person, good, and right of establishments. My generation, we used to call ourselves generation no visa. When you ask me that you are going to get a visa, in my mind, you are traveling to Europe or to America, but having visa to travel in West Africa is not possible. So that is the key protocol that we have in West Africa. This protocol is set up everything in West Africa. Either we have a policy on agriculture, policy in investments, policy in climate change, policy in whatever is derived from the protocol of free movement of person, good, or for right establishment, because we need to move each other. When you take West Africa, you can move from Nigeria, Lagos to Abidjan within the day. It's not common for everywhere in Africa. I'm saying this to show you how we do business here. And the second protocol that we at private sector, we are working on, that we are happy to have, is a protocol on community enterprises. This protocol is very key for the business, even within the implementation of our CFTA. The protocol said, when two citizens come together to create a business, we can give them the community enterprises recognition. That means if I'm in Nigeria, I create my company, I can work in Benin, Togo, in all West African countries. It's like the Eco Bank that I was explaining before, that the founding father of FEWASI said, if we want the regional integration to work, we should have a business where the citizen, what I mean citizen is all the ECOWAS members should have a share. So when I have a share in the company, that means that nothing can happen in that business. If, for example, there are issues in Mali or in Burkina Faso, and the company that we created is within the region, by the time we are lobby at FEWASI, to make sure that that's a challenge, we work out that challenge, we can start in doing business in Benin or in Togo, or even in Nigeria. That is the spirit of this community enterprises that I'm explaining to you. So what we have as a successful results in West Africa is that within the protocol, we create ASKY Airline. ASKY is the airline company. But can you believe that the key partner, the technical partner inside ASKY is Ethiopian Airline? So we work with Ethiopian Airline to have this type of company to serve the region. We also work on the Sea-Link Maritime project, is to connect all the West Africa coastal region. But when we were working on that Sea-Link, our counterparts in Central Africa were interested, even South Africa were interested to join us to work together. By the day we are getting these community enterprises, Morocco came in and said, we want to be observer in this company. So that is a type of successful experience that we have in West Africa, that we believe that if we want to succeed in implementation of a CFTA, we have to work on that area. Let us assume that we identify 5 key projects in Africa. And we say we want to have a technical partner or investor from South Africa, from Morocco, from Egypt to come together to work on these products. I believe that the product can easily move around the Africa. So what I can suggest that if we can come together with a such kind of a business that I believe that the private sector can do is to have this type of company, and we monitor the implementation for the next 2-3 years to see how we are working to get the CFTA successful. West Africa, we are about 5 million consumers here. And when you add the 5 million consumers to other regions, you can see where we can go. I was 2 weeks ago in a meeting in Yaoundé with a researcher, and they were asking me, what can we do together between private sector and researcher? And I just quickly do a table. I discovered that West Africa and Central Africa, they are 40% of Africa in terms of population, 40% in terms of land, and 40% in terms of consumer. But we are very close. So imagine when we link up West Africa and Central Africa with FDC, with other countries, imagine what we can get as a private sector. So that is the spirit of FEWASI that will lead to support the creation of African Union Business Council to work with other regions of Africa. Over to you, Melissa, please.
Incredible. Mr. Aminou, that is just absolutely amazing to hear. You know, it's when you speak, it's also you speak with living in the future. I love that you raised the AFCFTA and you really are planning around that. And we had the honor and privilege of actually meeting Honorable Wamkele Mene at the AWT conference that we attended, and he is really working so hard to start activating those routes as you are trying to find those ways to start to move product. And it's incredibly important that we start to think that way. In all of your answers, it's just wonderful to see how you're planning for the future and you gravitating towards it so strategically. It's wonderful to hear that. Thank you, Mr. Aminou.
You're welcome.
Mr. John, over to you. We know that there are great opportunities to trade across borders, but most formal SMEs don't take advantage of these opportunities. Can you share what the EABC is doing to support private sector development, especially SMEs in East Africa, to take up this opportunity in these 7 countries that are part of the EAC?
Yeah, thank you very much, Melissa. Indeed, that's a very pertinent question. And even today, before I came for this session, I had a discussion with MasterCard Foundation to look at how do we support SMEs, especially youth and the women, in terms of job creation. And I was giving a number that the region, every year we have almost 10 million of the youth who are ready to work, but only 2 million can find jobs. That is only 20%. So that shows you the need for us to open up our markets, open up our opportunities. So what we have done as the East African Business Council, we've established an SME platform, small medium enterprise platform, dedicated purposely to look at mapping out the youth, mapping out the women in business, those who are doing cross-border business. Of course, at the EAC, we have instrument. We have generally, when you look at the number of studies, the EAC, the utilization of trade preferences, EAC again comes number 1 among the regional economic communities. You find that almost our women and the youth are able to use what we call simplified trade regime, meaning that you can trade across borders, your product less than less than 2,000 US dollars, and those products are not subjected to administrative procedures, customs-related issues. That is an instrument already enshrined under our customs protocol, and it is being utilized. It is being utilized. Women are using it, and I know my brother today from even COMESA. It was initiated by COMESA, but the ESCs has high uptake of that instrument to ensure to enable women use to trade with ease at the border. We are even under continental free trade area where we are negotiating to raise the threshold from 2,000 US dollars to 5,000 US dollars because we've realized that 70% of the trade is supported or is conducted by women and youth. So we need to deliberately to have instruments to support youth and women to trade, both at the ESC level and even at the continental level. So that's what we have been doing at the ESC, as the EABC, in terms of ensuring that the women, the youth are using a simplified trade regime to trade across borders. But in addition, we have also established trade information desks at all our borders, where women not only publishing the desks, but we also publish the products that are eligible. The products we have profiled the products in which women can engage and trade freely across borders. That has enhanced our intra-regional trade. Generally, I was looking at the recent report from UNECA, indicates that ESC, the formal trade under ESC, is around 20%. But when we add informal cross-border trade, our intra-regional trade is around 42%. Because that usually we've been neglecting that trade, what we call informal trade. And in some of the countries have even now are capturing it. Rwanda, Uganda, they have a system to capture that in their national statistics. It is part of their trade data. Even when they make a policy, you find their policy has that component on how to support trade, especially SMEs and youth. So we're, again, to be clear and precise, that at the EABC, we've given ourselves a target that within, and this is a negotiation, of course, addressing a number of barriers, including trade finance, which has been one of the daunting challenges, as my brother Teddy mentioned, but also trade information has been one of the challenges for youth and women. We need to enhance, despite that we have that, but there are issues in terms of its own way. We do provide information at the border, but we realize that it's also important to provide information where products are produced. We need also to have a linkage, and we're having it, we're doing it with a number of universities to link academia to the industry. That's what the EABC is doing, linking academia to the industry, because we realize that some of the student graduates don't have the skills that are required by the labor market. So we have started a program on that to address that labor gap. So in addition, one of the issues that we are engaging, that's why I'm saying I was engaging with the MasterCard Foundation and other banks, including Equity. We have given ourselves a target of at least every 5 years to create 2 million jobs. And we can only do that through enhancement, through entrepreneurship, through training for our youth and women. So in short, EABC, what you have done, and I will share it with you, we've created a platform called, a digital platform called My Isoko. My Isoko means my market. So you can buy and sell, and you can even Google it, EABC, My Isoko, meaning my market, so that the youth, the women can post their product, can sell. It's like an e-commerce platform. So with of course support from ITC, but we are rolling it out with the view to enhance the capabilities of our youth, women to do business. So those are some of the initiatives. But again, lastly, finally, we have engaged a number of banks, including Equity Bank, to provide what we call patient capital. Because we realized that during our study, we realized that our banks, our financial institutions are not providing the required capital for SMEs to grow. That's why you find that the default rate is very high, because they don't have that patient capital. So what we are trying to negotiate is a kind of venture capital to support the youth and women to do their business with ease, without being subjected to a lot of administrative requirements. So that is what we are doing to address some of those challenges. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Mr. John. Wonderful, wonderful to hear. Really, it really comes down to empowering the youth and the women, you know, on the continent. Really, it does. And, you know, it's amazing to hear that we have got as an African economy, you've got SMEs that are contributing 20% to the African economy. And over and above that, these SMEs are actually creating 47% of the jobs on the continent. So if we can train these young entrepreneurs and the women in trade, just imagine what the contribution will be to the African economy. So it's very exciting times. I'm glad to hear that you had those conversations with the ITC. The International Trade Center has got you know, various free training for youth entrepreneurs, any really entrepreneurs that want to just develop entrepreneurial skills, as well as training specifically on how to trade. So it's wonderful that you've reached out there, and it's important that we start to integrate with these various international organizations to see what it is that we can leverage off their expertise as well. Thank you very much for that, John. So very high level, I'm going to pose a question to each of you. We are running out of time, so I'd like you just to answer high level. I don't want to leave it out, so please do bear with us. Most African businesses look at global markets outside of the African continent for opportunities. Can each of you share with us why you think access to regional markets is a good strategy for African businesses to start off in cross-border trade? And what is your organization doing to ensure that we have increased regional trade? So just if you can give us a very high level answer there, we'll start with you, Mr. Teddy.
Thank you, Melissa. I think it's no secret that competition, you know, is ruthless on the global market, and I think our businesses know that very well. So there are many competitors, from other continents. I believe, and I've always believed, and I work on regional integration in Africa for a very long time. I've always believed that the regional market is a good strategy, as it helps our businesses put in place systems and processes which allow them to trade regionally before going global. I think the regional market is a good testing, is a good training ground before we go to that global market.
Absolutely.
Yeah, combating, I think, for example, combating illicit trade helps our businesses to put in place a framework, an operating model which will help them meet the exigencies of the global market. Intellectual property rights, for example, regulatory requirements. Melissa, you mentioned earlier about standards, SPS and TBT, technical barriers to trade. And these are based on international standards. So we have done, for example, CBC, we have done quite a lot of work on illicit trade. So allow me here also to maybe just a parenthesis, just to thank some of our partners, without whom we wouldn't have been able to do the work. And so I have in mind here, of course, our members, the COMESA Secretariat, the EU, BDI from Germany, the Federation of German Industries, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, ITC, again helping CBC also, CIPE, and other partners who are supporting us in this endeavor. So on that note, Melissa, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Teddy. I'll hand over to you, Mr. Aminou. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Teddy. I believe that doing business abroad is to export mainly our material, our raw material, without any transformation. The second that I can pull out is that when we access a market abroad, we have a large demands that we cannot address. For example, some African countries were under AGOA, And when they start exporting to America, they cannot face the demand. So having regional markets will allow us, for example, to have a cooperation where we can have supply, we can bring together some products to supply in our country. You see, there are some companies that are not able to provide products to their community, to their states, even to the country, but they want to work abroad. There are some companies that they want to sell products in the next country, but they don't have this capability. So what we are supporting in West Africa is to make sure that we let business people know each other. I'm here in West Africa, I'm producing mango, and somebody is in say South Africa or in any other country who is in the same sector like me, how we can come together, exchange our experience. What do I need to strengthen the quality of my products? Do I need a package? Do I need a training? That's what we are doing within the African Union Business Council framework to make sure that, for example, West can meet East. We have this type of projects, is an initiative from one of our consultants that we are supporting, how West can meet East, how business people in West can work with SOG in East, for example, in Nigeria and Kenya, how they can come together, or Ghana and Kenya, how they can come together, that within the framework of AFCFTA, they can exchange, they can transport their products. By doing so, we will discover that there are the need to put in place an infrastructure to transform our local material. That will help us to serve all our region before going abroad. Because for now, I think that we don't have this capability. Our SME don't have this capability to go out of Africa, to go to international markets to put their products. What they have to do, what is very important for them now, is how we can bring together SMEs. That's why I really appreciate what John Bosco said about ITC. We are doing same in West Africa here with our ITC support to make sure that we have the platform where we have a youth, women, they come together, they exchange, and they do business together. Our role as a business organization is to make sure that we provide for them, enable business environment. I will end my presentation if you give me just 2 minutes to read this. I'm very, very happy to have it anytime I'm having my meeting. Is from His Excellency Dr. Albert Mushenga, Commissioner for Trade and Industry of African Union. He said, private sector should stay by the government of member state side to take strategic position and effectively utilize the trade platform for regional and global expansion. That's what Dr. Mushenga said. But my president, Mr. Famotu in Kiwasi, he said, it's when private sector and public sector, researcher and academia come together in enabling business environment to invest that we can achieve the objective of continental integration. So in our region, we need to come together as private sector. We need to work with government to see the policy they are putting in place. Is it favorable for us? Where are the business opportunity in each of this business policy? Thank you very much. It was a very good pleasure for me to have you, to be on this platform. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aminou. Really appreciate it. Over to you, John, Mr. John, if you'd like to share your thoughts on that question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Let me say that we've lost half a century when we've been exporting to our raw materials to the rest of the world.
Fully agree.
And, yes, because it has not served Africa very well. That's why we are always, most of our countries are suffering from a trade deficit, current account imbalances, because our export does not match our imports. So I think the starting point, and which I want to appreciate, is that when the CFTA was crafted, I think it is Article 5 of the agreement, there is a component called preservation of a key. A key means what has been agreed should be based on, meaning that the CFTA recognizes RECs, regional economic communities, as building blocks, because where we have done what we have done should be cascaded upwards to support the CFTA, because as I said, among 8 RECs recognized, EAC is one of them, and we have moved to a higher stage of integration. We are now moving towards monetary union. We've done customs union, common market, monetary union. So we've deepened our integration agenda. So let me say that the reason why RECs are very important is that we've endeavored to build our capabilities, regional capabilities, in terms of production, in terms of trading services. We've even moved a step ahead in terms of what I call harmonization of standards and sanitary and phytosanitary measures to allow our region to trade with minimal restrictions. So we realize that, as I'm saying, that we've lost almost a half a century, because the European, we have had a preference in the European markets. We have now AGOA, but all our exporters complain about stringent standards.
Yes.
Now we are even talking about environmental related standards, where countries are imposing restriction for products in our region, in our continent, that they don't meet environmental standards. And yet we are not the emitters. We are not so such a requirement cannot serve Africa. We need to build, and in the previous session, my brother was there, the regional executive director for standardization. We need to have our continental regional standards. We know our products, where they are produced, they are environmental friendly. We need to embrace that. So that is the reason why I need to emphasize that we need to strengthen our RECs, because they are good grounds, especially for nurturing SMEs, for understanding regional and continental context. Lastly, I want to say that we, among 8 countries that were selected for what we call guided trade under CFTA, 4 of them are coming from East Africa: Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda, meaning that already we have already started exporting our product to West Africa to test the water, to test the market, and to look at that our instrument can work. So I would say the CFTA is going to be a game changer, but the CFTA, to thrive, to be very successful, need to be anchored under RECs, need to be supported by our regional economic communities. And I think that is my message. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Mr. John. So insightful. Thank you very, very much. It has been just an incredible session, and I want to thank each of you for joining us. A huge thank you to each of our panelists in this session. There's absolute, with no doubt, that the contributions shared here today are really thought-provoking and really insightful. So thank you very much. We appreciate that what each of you do in your personal capacities and as that of your organizations contributing to the growth of Africa and the people of Africa. Thank you very much. And thank you so much again to Regional Africa and the other organizers for making this possible, and for the opportunity for myself to moderate this important session. Thank you so much. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you, Melissa, for that amazing moderation. I do have to say, as I was hearing you moderating, I realized that, unfortunately, I forgot to introduce you and the work that you're doing, so just bear with me. I do have to say that Melissa Harvey, is the Chief Operation Officer at the Village Foundation. She supports and empowers entrepreneurs through its various programs. She's an advocate for socio-economic change and transformation, and they believe that entrepreneurs answer to many of African challenges, and therefore it becomes critical to drive policy, legislation, and international agreements in favor of the entrepreneurs on the continent. And I'm very happy that she joined us today to moderate this session after I asked her a couple of weeks ago after I met her in South Africa for the Africa Women in Trade conference, and I noticed her passion for entrepreneurship and for this continent. So again, Melissa, thank you very much for that wonderful moderation, and thanks to the rest of the panelists.